Hey, welcome to the show. School's been out for almost a month now, but with 2 months away until the new school year, 2023-24 school year, buses are now implementing some security cameras. Now, if you're on a bus, you may have seen those security cameras to keep people safe. Even also on city buses, if you've been on a city bus and saw the cameras, you know those are designed to help out with safety and to prevent violence and something like that happening. In Florida, school districts bolster student safety with bus cameras to catch drivers passing illegally. It's not just for the kids. It's also for the bus drivers. How will it help students be safe? Well, take a look.
For students returning to class in August, some school districts are equipping their buses with cameras.
Similar to red light camera programs, new devices will be used to catch and ticket drivers who illegally pass buses threatening student safety. West News investigative reporter Greg Fox explains how this works.
Whoa, not one, but two cars zooming through this neighborhood just as two students are heading to the school bus. Since last August, Brevard and two other Florida counties have run pilot programs with buses outfitted with cameras from a company called Bus Patrol to see which ones are committing what are called stop arm violations, driving past buses with the stop signs out and red lights flashing.
I know everyone's in a hurry, everyone has a place to go, but keeping these students safe is really number one in our book.
Dr. Michael Miller is head of transportation for Brevard County Schools. He says the pilot program justifies a new state law that, beginning July 1st, will allow every school district in Florida to add cameras. With just 10 buses equipped this recent school year, there were more than 5,300 violations recorded. That's 3.8 violations per day. That's why Brevard County is adding the cameras to all 240 buses.
If people know that they're going to be fined, we're hoping that that'll make them be a little bit more cautious and pay more attention to their bus being stopped with a sign. I mean, we are trying to keep the kids as safe as possible.
Under the new state law, the camera will read and record the license plate of a vehicle that passes a school bus in the fully stopped position. The registered owner will be sent a civil citation. The vehicle owner will be fined $225 but receive no points on their license. The law remains if a law enforcement officer tickets you for a stop arm violation, that fine is $265 and 4 points on your license. The school districts and the state will use the money to improve transportation safety for students. Orange County is the largest school district in Central Florida, the most buses, the most students, the most miles traveled. But in an email sent to West 2 News, a spokesperson says at this time they are not adding cameras to buses. In Orlando, Greg Fox, West 2 News.
Which is great. There's no common sense out there for the bus drivers. They're doing great. But there's common sense. Common sense for the drivers.
This is my comeback. Start yours at purdueglobal.edu.
I need to learn to just skip those advertisements. Okay. The bus drivers, their job is to make sure that the kids cross the street and get on the bus. But you drivers in there in a hurry, like, I'm gonna be late to work. I'm gonna be late to work. He's like, I don't care. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Motorcycles going by, they don't care. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Vroom, vroom. It doesn't matter. When you see that stop sign on that bus, you need to stop. If the bus driver puts his or her hand out telling you, just give them this. What does that mean? It just means, I understand you directed me to go forward, but I have to follow, I have to be safe here. That's using your noodle, that's using your brain. Because no one understands this. And in Florida state law, Well, there needs to be a similar state law here in Texas that about this issue. I mean, there's already stop signs. There are already cameras inside the buses, but there needs to be cameras right outside catching the drivers. And like you saw, catch the speeder. Just catch the speeder, record the driver's, get the license plate, and then just send them a letter. That's the same thing that happens in Florida. It needs to be happening here in Texas. There's no excuse. No similarity between Florida and Texas. I'm not making excuses. But the excuses that I hear, it's just, well, I'm going to be late for work. That's the most, I'm going to be late for work. I mean, you may explain it to the judge and be like, well, we don't care. Tells the bus driver, they'll tell you, well, I get it, but we're trying to be safe here. It's like, okay, let's be safe here next school year. When 2023-2024 school year hits, let's all be safe. Transportation safety, we got to start caring about safety. Bus safety. I mean, student safety, that's what it's all about. So, yeah, that's what needs to happen. We'll explain more on our back to school month, which is going to be in August. Sometime 2 weeks before July. We'll explain. Okay, coming up next, more affirmative action bake sales. Why are these things happening when college administrators violate the free speech? Then later, sexual harassment, and then also still ahead, sexual harassment in the workplace. This woman claims that this man sexually harassed her. These women claimed they've all been sexually harassed by one man. Hear all sides of the tale coming up. Stay with us. Monday, we talked about affirmative action. We also showed you some affirmative action bake sales, just one of them. You'll see that full video in just a minute. But in case you didn't tune into Monday's video, affirmative action is also known as positive action or positive discrimination. It involves a set of policies and practices within a government organization seeking to include particular groups. Based on their gender, race, sexuality, creed, or nationality in areas which such groups are unrepresented, such as education or employment. Now, people do this via these bake sales that are happening. We also showed you one bake sale that was shut down because of the college and university. We showed you John Stiles' example of the affirmative bake sale, but we've not shown you the full video of this. We'll show you the full video in just a minute. But there's probably more of these affirmative action bake sales that have been shut down. In case you didn't know, these bake sales are a way to start conversations about punishing the Asians, so and so. Now, let me say right up front that I am not judging. I'm not judging any Asian people. I'm not judging any Asian people by how well they do. This is just basically a conversation. You may have your opinions, and I respect your opinions. But we're not here to discuss like, oh, he said, she said, all that stuff. Gay marriage is just like, that's a whole nother show. That's an issue for the talk show circuit. I'm not a prime example here. But it's an issue here that's just gone all around these universities and colleges. These bake sales are a type of campus protest event used by student groups to formally criticize affirmative action policies by charging students different prices depending on which social racial group they belong to. It's also being used to raise awareness of racial or sexual wage gaps. It's like, wow. And it has been in the news. In February, in South Carolina, this bake sale has been shut down because They shut down the bake sales. But that's not where it all started. It all started right here. Take a look at the full clip.
Not different guys. Yeah, we gotta shut it down. Let you know.
Why does that have to be shut down?
Because the cost of the donuts is different from what it's outrageous.
This is how the administration hates us.
You advertise one thing and you are selling it for different.
12:05, as expected, the university shuts down Central Peak Survey. I know it's not cool. Thank you for agreeing.
If we fix the price of the advertised price, why would that not be
Sorry,
normal?
sorry, you can listen, okay?
Why wouldn't you do it?
You can read, register, okay? And that's it. Re-register at another time with proper advertisement.
But if we change the advertisement that we advertise at, I'm ready.
I'm not going to anything to it. You can re-register, okay? This is not what you said you were going to do, okay? As a consequence, you have the opportunity to register.
What about the other groups that sent out petitions and they didn't even fill out sales and solicitation forms at all and they were allowed to stay up?
Okay, but our event's tomorrow, so what are you doing to get, this is to advertise an event that we're hosting tomorrow. So, I mean, it really doesn't have the same kind of consequence if we advertise the event after it happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's unfortunate that whoever registered the event did not properly instruct us what was happening. Sorry.
It's okay, guys, it's on tape.
And it was on tape. They didn't know they were being filmed. So, reading the description box of this video, in this clip, the deans comfort and Mary Temple at the BUCC's free speech by citing action event sales and solution from the form filed 3 weeks in advance stated a $2 price for donuts. During the event, they were sold for $1 or below. The deans hunted over 30 minutes to find this technology. That's what the description of the video says. A lot of comments have been posted saying, like, 2. There is no right to be offended. It is the essence of being offended that forces one to think critically about the arrangements being presented. It is easier to silence the offensive or viewpoint or dismiss it out, or via ad hominem attacks. Thinking is hard work. 3. Suppression of speech in this day and age only serves to further enhance and promote the speech via national media. That is exactly what happened here. If Bucknell had just allowed it, it would now be history. Okay? The sign is hilarious. It makes a good, though incomplete, point. How can anyone not see the humor in it? Clearly a violation of speech rights. 1, it doesn't matter if you pay $50K or nothing or to attend a university. If you don't have the freedom to explore even the most offensive ideas, you are the one being cheated. Also being cheated are those who oppose such viewpoints. They have no opportunity to refute the arrangement. Argument. The argument remains silenced and therefore validated in the minds of those who hold the offensive beliefs. Okie dokie. This is a blatant misuse of the university authority. These kids are protected under the Constitution, Amendment 1, 1791. Congress shall make no law respecting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government to redress of grievances. These kids should sue the school. Okay? So, what does that tell you? That probably tells you a lot on what you need to do. So, yeah. But common sense. College may be about independence. but you still have to follow the rules and the guidelines throughout your university, whether you're in Texas A&M University, whether you're in Kansas University, whatever university you go to, you may express your freedoms, you may stand strong and say, I'll express my First Amendment rights, you may do whatever you want, but you are still under the grounds, you're still on their property. If they tell you to do something, you do it, no matter what. When we were kids, part of growing up, what we learned is part of growing up is doing what you don't want to do. I don't want to go to work, but I have to go to work in order to pay the bills. That's the key here. But this bake sale's not over. When we come back, you will see what Clemson University did when they shut down their bake sale. This was back in February. Also from 6 years ago, UT students arguing anti-affirmative action bake sale, similar to what you've seen here in that video. Stay with us. We're talking about affirmative action bake sales, whether they violate First Amendment rights or violate college rules. Is it right or is it wrong to start a debate? We started doing this on Monday by showing you an example from a mall where John Stossel had, it was like this: if you're white, if you're Asian, it's $1. If you're black, it's 50 cents. Latino, it's 25 cents. Now, this is something that I did not come up with. This was copied from a previous clip that was done. In the video we showed you earlier, their bake sale was shut down, but it was 30 minutes later when it was a technicality, which violated their free speech, and lots of comments blew up on their channel saying, well, you should sue the school district. Common sense should tell you that if someone tells you to do something, you do it. Lemonade stands. Summer's hitting around the corner, and millions of people are hitting up those lemonade stands. Yeah, we'll show you that in just a minute. But let's look at that affirmative action bake sale that was a debate 4 months ago.
A conservative student group held a demonstration against affirmative action on campus.
The meaning of the affirmative action bake sale depended on who you asked, but it definitely sparked debate. 7 News' Alessandra Young spoke to students on both sides.
An affirmative action bake sale took place right here at Clemson University. A poster made by the Turning Point USA chapter listed different prices for different races. Organizers say it's a message about the inequity of affirmative action, but others see it differently.
Why you don't agree if it helps everybody?
At Clemson University on Wednesday, a bake sale sign.
So let's take a look at this. If you're Asian, $1.50. If you're white, that's $1. Hispanic, 50 cents. Black, $20. Look at this. This is no joke. This is actually no joke at all. Y'all might be starting to debate like one never say I'm racist. No. This is the picture. This is the proof right here. You may be saying that I'm being a racist and all, I support this. I don't support people doing these affirmative action bake sales. And if I supported them, I'd regret it. But if I saw one, if I were to walk to any university, any school, and I saw that affirmative action bake sale happening, I would be like the rhino, charged up, breaking it down, saying, hey, stop right there. Or I would be, I'll show you the clip in just a minute. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to time that. This is you watching then.
Listing different prices for different ethnicities got students talking.
To kind of highlight the discrepancy that occurs with the college admission process, there's a proper way to grab attention, and theirs was very unprofessional. It was very demeaning.
The Clemson chapter of a conservative nonprofit group, Turning Point USA, organized the demonstration.
We were trying to highlight that it really shouldn't come down to your race, and your race shouldn't matter. Like, everyone should be held to the same standard.
Their president, Taylor Rogers, says they don't believe in discrimination.
Asian Americans shouldn't be penalized for having higher average SAT scores than Native American students, for example.
Zaria Roberts attended the event and says she felt uncomfortable.
We were unqualified to be at Clemson or at any big university. We were unqualified to be there, and that through affirmative action that they lowered the university's standards so that we will be able to be there.
Some students felt the bake sale taking place on the first day of Black History Month was offensive.
It was just kind of invalidating my experience. I didn't get really any resources to help for my tuition based off of my skin color.
To have something on our campus the first day, we want to really recognize who we are as individuals. It's very disappointing.
Roger says this was the first day everyone was available to hold an event for their chapter.
We didn't intend to do it on the first day of Black History Month. That's just the way the cards played out.
All cookies were given out for free to enhance the chapter's message.
We don't think you should be discriminated against like colleges discriminate you and the admission process.
Others didn't take it that way.
Clemson needs a quota, they want funding, and that's why we are here.
Rogers says their chapter will continue to hold events throughout the semester. In Clemson, Alessandra Young, 7 News.
By the way, welcome to our 670th episode of this broadcast. In all of the 670 shows, I've never been more pissed off than I am right now. So these people get a big old fat mama common sense alert. I see the Spaceos want to punish black people. That is racist bullying. That president out there, you are a bully. You are a bully. The beginning of Black History Month, you want to pick on black people? You are a racist and you are a bully. We need to treat everybody equally. Equal. You see these two fingers? Blacks plus whites plus Asians plus Latinos plus Hispanics equals everybody joining together in peace and harmony. Everyone needs to be treated equally. We don't need to separate out. We don't need these bake sales happy people saying, hey, let's make this bake sale. Let's start a conversation here. Let's pick on Asians. Let's pick on black people. Let's pick on Hispanics. Give me a break. You cannot be doing that. Yes, it's a part of your freedom. I get that. But you are still on college campuses. Therefore, if they find out that you are picking on these people, you're being racist, they can and will suspend you and remove you from college. Indefinitely, period. And here is a great clip, because like I said before, right before I continue playing it, because it would be a perfect example. Because really, this would be one of these. This clip you're about. This would be a great example here. Because let me tell you something. If I saw this happen, if I was walking by college and I saw this happening, I would have approached this in 3 different ways. The first way, I would have been nice and saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" Then they would have told me what was going on, and they would tell me what's going on, and they asked me, "You want to start a conversation?" I would say, "No, thanks. I want to keep on going." I would walk away. Second way, I would ask what's going on. Then I would take a picture, click, and then send it to the president of the university and saying, "Are you going to allow this to happen?" Because they're making fun of these people. They would look into it and shut that bake sale down right away. The president would come to me saying, "Did you snitch on us?" And I would say, you're damn right I did. You're being a bully. Big old fat bully who picks on Asians, picks on everybody. Look, we have to treat each other equally. That's the second way. The third way, well, take a listen.
Stop right there, murderer!
Instead of murderer, it would have been stop right there, racist. Or the fourth way, I would have charged up, broken down the bake sale. Sorry. I would have charged like the rhino, ran into that bake sale, even when it caused vandalism, and I had to pay for it. But I would explain at the disciplinary hearing saying, yes, I did it because I wanted to end racism. These affirmative action bake sales are doing nothing but spreading racism. I would show them this episode, and they would agree with me on some levels, but they may disagree with what I have to say. The president may sit there and say, you make some good points, Mr. Carmody, but we have First Amendment rights. And I would be saying, stop right there. I know you got something to say, but I'm going to hold you up right there. Yes, you do have First Amendment rights. Of course you do. But you are still on these premises, the college property. And the president finds out you're doing this, they can shut you down. And if you do this any other place, they will shut you down as well. The mall, any place. Like if I did in my work, my boss would find out about it, and not only will I be shut down, I would be out of a job. Period. There's no excuse for this. Ain't no excuse. When you're dealing with people who just want to sit there and have a conversation, do it over a cup of coffee. Don't be doing these bake sales. It's going to attract a lot of attention and feel like every race is going to be hated because, oh, I got picked on. I was like, is the cupcake poison? Like if I was to sell lemonade at different prices. Like if you're black, the lemonade's $1. If you're white, it's 50 cents. If you're Hispanic / Latino, it's 25 cents. If you're Asian, that's 10 cents. I would be a racist. I'm not going to do this experiment because I do not want to spread racism. We all should be treated equally and pay people equally. Afford lemonade and cookies, cupcakes at the same price equally. That's the key here. So next college, you want to start doing these bake sales? Watch this episode with your friends. Watch it with the president. And you president out there, you attend, if you're a racist and you want to start picking on people who are racist, I am coming for you. I will be coming for you. That ain't a threat. I will be coming for you, and I will give you common sense of what you need to do. Because your parents never taught you to start treating people equally. That's what my parents always teach me, to treat people with respect. That's what your parents never taught you. Your parents never taught you respect? I mean, sure, but it doesn't matter. The world doesn't go around these bake sales. It goes around what we did. I mean, slavery's over. Martin Luther King had a dream about it, and we're not going back to the days of slavery where we punished the black people. No, we're not doing that. We want to be treated equally. We want to be able to have lunch together. We want to be able to have dinner together. We want to go out and party together. We want to be friends. We don't need these bake sales happening. I'm going to be pushing a motion to end affirmative action, to end these affirmative action bake sales. Maybe First Amendment right, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Come out next. This one was sexually harassed by this man. Now, all these women are coming forward to say they haven't sexually harassed. It's sexual harassment in the workplace, and Sarah James has all their detailed stories. Stay with us. Earlier this season, you saw my reaction when I played you this story. Now, to be fair, to be honest with you guys, one person commented saying it should be like this. The purpose is to show you my reaction to the story. And staying silent. That's why you see my face. These are reactions. It's all in the eyebrows and it's all in your mouth. These are emotions. Whether you're happy, you're scared, or you're sad. It's all emotions. Hence the term reactionary. Try to understand here. In this next case you're about to see, back in November we probably talked about sexual harassment. Yeah, we talked about it during the show, which was our very first show. But now you will see what happens when all women try to come forward to say that this man sexually harassed this person. You also saw my reaction to the Ford Motor Company when they denied that they've been sexually that all the male employees sexually harassed the female workers. We'll give you that on Friday. But there is more to this than meets the eye. This woman you're about to meet did sexually harass her, along with all the other women you're about to meet in this story. But here's the twist, though. He's the president, the chairman of the board, and the CEO. Tonight, how his secretary took him on. Here's Sarah James.
There's just no comparison. It's like night and day.
There's no way to compare what happened to Janae Adrian 4 years ago to her life today.
You can't put something so bad next to something so good.
What's important now is her newborn baby.
He makes the funniest faces.
But not long ago, she was in a bitter battle against a major corporation and its powerful boss. It all started here at Dell Labs when Adrian was promoted to executive assistant to the CEO. Just 22 years old, she jumped at the chance, despite rumors that this boss was difficult.
Very often women would be crying in the bathroom because of the things he said, and I couldn't believe that anyone could say anything to anybody that would get them that upset at work.
So at that time you thought, maybe it's them.
Yeah, how bad could it be?
She said she would soon find out. Not only was her new boss critical of her work, she said she was mortified by comments about her appearance.
He had said in front of a group of people at one time that I was so fat I should be holding another elephant's tail in a circus ring.
Adrian says it was a daily onslaught, from personal insults to profanity, including an especially vulgar word for part of a woman's body.
He used the C word. He used the F word.
In what way would he use these words?
I can say that, he did call me a dumb C several times.
What do you tell him? In the beginning, she didn't know what to do. This was her first big job, and her boss was an industry legend. So initially, she blamed herself.
I guess in some way I felt like I was letting him down, and that's almost...
So you started to feel like you were deserving of this kind of language?
So I just accepted it.
That is, she says, until the day her boss went too far.
I was standing up, speaking with him, going over his calendar, and from out of nowhere, he just reached over and grabbed my breast.
Did he say anything when he did this?
No, he didn't say anything.
What did you do?
I said, don't touch me, nobody ever touches me, don't ever do that again. I was very upset by it.
Janae Adrian's former boss is this man, Daniel Wasong. Wasong runs Dell Labs, a $190 million corporation with more than 1,000 employees. Ironically, Wasong has built his career making products for women. Among his success stories are Sally Hansen nail care products and Naturistics Cosmetics. Wasong is divorced and lives in a luxurious apartment here in the Carlisle Hotel in Manhattan, just one of his 3 homes, which include this bungalow in the Tony, Long Island community of Southampton and a winter getaway in this exclusive club in West Palm Beach. Wasong earned that lifestyle not only as the CEO of Dell, he's the president, the chairman of the board, and the company's largest stockholder, No one, but no one, is more powerful. This was the CEO. Your boss was the boss. Where do you turn?
There's nowhere to turn. I knew that.
But that didn't mean that Janae Adrian had given up. After a year at Dell, the abuse had taken its toll, and she was ready to fight.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't even know if I could. I just knew I was going to do something.
What she did was call lawyer after lawyer, only to be referred to what she considered the most unlikely ally of all, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
The EEOC, Clarence Thomas, no, that's wrong, that's backwards.
All she knew about the EEOC was what she'd heard about its former chairman, Clarence Thomas. Like the rest of America, she'd watched him on television in his Supreme Court hearings, denying Anita Hill's allegations of sexual harassment.
Thomas told me graphically of his own sexual prowess.
It is a high-tech lynching.
He's not here anymore. He's not here anymore.
Gilbert Casellas is the current EEOC chairman. His office agreed to investigate the complaint. But did Janae Adrian have a case? Would the word of a 23-year-old secretary hold up next to the word of a respected CEO who had the resources of a multi-million-dollar corporation behind him? What Daniel Wasson was about to discover was that the young woman he had hired had resources of her own. You did your homework.
Yes.
In her final months at Dell, Adrian quietly assembled what she thought she needed to file a lawsuit against her boss. She kept records, copied Wassong's daybook.
Right, I didn't want people to say I was out of town that day. That couldn't happen.
And she made notes, lots of notes, of every incident and every detail. This is in your own hand. Mr. Wassong often pulled a zipper down in front of me and would say, "Come here, I want to show you something." Or, "Come on, do what you're supposed to." I always walked away. Do you remember what that felt like?
Yes, I do.
You're feeling it right now. What are you thinking?
I guess it was just part of the degradation that I felt.
That pain and humiliation, Janae Adrian says, motivated her to work even harder. She says she suspected that what had happened to her had happened to others. But to how many? After dozens of telephone calls, her detective work would pay off. In the months to come, a steady stream of former Wassong employees would come forward. First, there was one, and then another, and 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 another.
It was almost unbelievable that, they'd say the same exact thing. And, oh my God, that happened to me too.
And as it turned out, the stories these women had about Daniel Wassong went back years, although they sound as if they'd worked within days of each other.
You got there in the morning and prayed that he wouldn't be in that day.
You didn't know if there was going to be a phone flying next to your head.
He ran
and just whacked me really hard.
He grabbed my buttocks as he walked by.
Go put your pants on.
And I was shocked.
And he laughed and went into the other room and dressed himself.
Did you think, my gosh, we have to win?
Oh yes, I did believe that. I just thought that there's so many women who just how could nobody believe us?
But it was still the word of secretaries versus a wealthy and well-connected CEO. In fact, a man whose high society female friends would come out in his defense. Dell wasn't about to take these allegations lying down and would hire 4 prominent law firms to fight the charges. This was shaping up as a major battle. The power the secretary seemed to once have was no longer a sure thing.
45 women plus those 12. Who would win this battle? Would it be the women or would it be Dell Labs and Daniel Wasson? When we come back, you will hear the other side of the story from Daniel Wasson. Did he sexually harass all these women? Sarah James with the conclusion of a hostile environment when we return. Stay with us. Now the conclusion of our story. Janae Adrian had a case to where to where she was sexually harassed by Daniel Wasson of Dell Labs. But did he really do it? Before all this, 11 different women came forward telling their sides of the story. But what does Daniel Wasson have to say? You will hear from him and his lawyers who may tell a different story. You will also hear from the EEOC. Who would believe? Would they believe the women in this case, or would they believe the president, the chairman of the board, and the CEO all in one? Here, with the conclusion to our story, Sarah James.
Dell Labs attorneys would eventually conduct their own investigation. An investigation, they say, reveals a very different picture of the man at the top, Daniel Wasson. In a letter to Dateline, they say Daniel Wasson has unrelenting drive, determination, and exacting standards, and that his management style and personality created a demanding, but not sexually harassing, work atmosphere. We put that very point to the women who worked for Wasson. Dan Wasson had a reputation of being difficult. People who went to work for him were told that he was difficult.
Hate that word.
You hate that word?
Yes, I do.
Very open to interpretation.
Definitely. Yeah, difficult to me means, a hard worker, an ambitious man or a woman, an executive, a real high-powered kind of an individual, not a pig. And Dan Wasson is a pig.
Lisa Spoor and the rest of these women say working for Wasson was the worst job they ever had. They say on a typical day at Dell, Wasson would arrive chauffeur-driven around 2 in the afternoon.
But he did start on the phone at like
8:30 every morning.
That's when it started. He would start telling you what you had effed up the day before. And that's what he said. You did it again, you effed it up. Swearing is a part of many workplaces. Not mine. There is swearing in a lot of office places. Swearing is not sexual harassment.
But general
in and of itself.
when it's directed to an
General
individual.
swearing, like you say, I screwed up or something, but not directly towards you time and time again.
When he starts to call you an effing moron and using the wonderful C word and terrible derogatory comments like that are gender-based, then it becomes sexual harassment.
Such is the way Robin Cohen says Wasson would ask her to do things.
Instead of saying, Robin, come in here, to say, C word, get in here, I want to go over something with you. And that one didn't go on once, but it was relentless.
Let me do a show of hands for a moment here. How many of you did Dan Wasson call the C word? Wasson, seen here stirring a vat of lipstick, declined our repeated requests for an interview. But Dell's attorneys tell us in this demanding but not sexually harassing work atmosphere, Wasson also insists on perfection and is particularly critical of mistakes. None of the women here would argue with that, but they say they're outraged at the way Wasson would criticize them.
I was called an effing moron. He wanted to know if I was raised in a circus, that I was stupid, that how was I raised, what kind of parents did I have to raise someone like me.
Aren't you done with the lunch yet? Haven't you looked in the mirror lately?
Right.
You don't need lunch. Do you think that he made comments about weight ever to men?
Oh, no. Never heard of it.
No. How about his tirades? Were they directed at men, too? Did he call them, you effing moron?
Not that I've seen, no. I never witnessed any. The tirades I witnessed were against women.
By law, the EEOC must investigate all claims of sexual harassment before it takes any legal action. Investigators there say they found story after story of lewd behavior that went all the way back to Wasson's early days at Dell. When Susan Lewis worked at Dell, Wasson was only a vice president.
I was 19, and we were a group of young secretaries, and he would walk around the office scratching himself, adjusting himself.
That was in 1965. That's right, 30 years ago. Susan Lewis says back then they didn't know what to call his behavior.
I guess if he was being sexual, it was lost on us. We were just very young and innocent at that time. And we used to laugh and say that he must have fleas. We were going to put a can of flea and tick spray on his desk for Christmas or something, you know.
But Lewis, who posed for ads for Dell products, says even back then, she knew when Hwasong was over the line.
One day I was at the files, and my back was to him, and he came around and just whacked me really hard on my rear end and said, "You're getting fat." And then he just laughed.
4 years later, in 1969, Hwasong was promoted to Chief Executive Officer. Colleen Wright was Hwasong's executive secretary 13 years later.
I went in blind. I had been placed by an agency, told that I'd be working for somebody difficult. I was going to conquer the task, you know.
It was 1982. At the time, she was a single mother supporting 2 young children.
He'd say, well, you know, your job would be a lot easier if you would just, you know, go along with what I want.
What did he want?
He would say, I have some friends coming over tomorrow night, why don't you come? Be here at 8 o'clock. I'm like, no.
8 years later, in 1990, Lisa Spohr took the job.
He gets up, walks around from behind his desk, takes the pocket calendar out of his jacket, which was laying on the chair, puts it in his hip pocket, and tells me to get it out.
Go get it.
That's right.
Retrieve it from his pants pocket.
I told him I would not do it.
Robin Cohen followed Lisa Spohr.
My story was the open fly story also, which I think happened to a couple of us.
New to the job, at first Cohen says she gave Hwasong the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe the man forgot to zip his fly. But when it happens to you 3 times in 9 days, you begin to wonder if it's not an accident anymore.
And Mary Dixon was working for Hwasong when the lawsuit was filed in 1992.
When we were cleaning up after lunch one day, I walked by the bathroom, and there he was urinating with the bathroom door open.
Was it an accident?
No, this was all the time. He never closed the bathroom door.
That happens to me too. I had the same experience.
Did you say anything to him about it?
No, I just
did a pound face and walked away.
But why not? I mean, this is so inappropriate. Tell him when he calls you the C word, you're across the line, buddy. How dare you? Why was it so tough to speak up to Dan Hwasong?
Because even when you did say something to him, he turned around and told you, if you don't like it, leave.
One of the things that you think is that it will end, and you will be the one to change this person. Somehow by doing excellent work, and you keep seeking approval.
You were afraid of what he was going to do to you if you said something to him. There was so much fear in that office. It was incredible. You were afraid of him.
He was the chairman, president, and CEO when I worked for him. So where are you going to go? That somebody doesn't report to him, that somebody doesn't have their paycheck or their raise signed off by him.
Some of these women worked for Hwasong longer than others. Mary Dixon, the longest of all, 19 months.
Why did you stick it out for such a long time? I needed the money. I had a mortgage to pay.
As for the rest,
I was only there a month. And I just said, I can't do this. I just won't. I worked for Dan for 5 months. On and off for about 2 months.
2.5 months. 2 months.
9 days.
in fact, they say almost every secretary who ever worked in the front office didn't stay for long.
Was it a revolving door?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
36 secretaries in 36 months.
36 secretaries?
Before I had gotten there and from the time I left. There was times where they were going through 3 a week.
Leaving the security of a full-time job was one thing, but these women say the emotional toll of working in that kind of environment day after day turned out to be far greater.
I lost all of my self-esteem. I didn't know if I was capable of going out and getting another job.
He had just beaten me down to a point where I was a nothing and a nobody.
I had stomach problems. I couldn't eat anything without getting indigestion and heartburn.
And even after 30 years, Susan Lewis says the experience with Hwasong is etched in her memory.
That it may not seem so terrible to the viewers listening to it, so I got smacked, big deal. But it was something that I never forgot, and then it bothered me. I can't say it ruined my life, it didn't, but it bothered me all this time.
In July of 1994, almost 2 years after the initial complaint, the EEOC officially filed a lawsuit against Dell Labs and Daniel Hwasong. Chairman Casella says the number of women, the variety of stories, and the length of time made the case.
if you just took one little incident and said, well, that's standing alone, and you called her a name, gosh, that happens all the time in the workplace. That doesn't rise to the level of sexual harassment, does it? No. But let's look at the whole pattern. Let's look at a period of time.
You're talking about then an atmosphere, a culture of harassment.
It's an environment, and the law recognizes a hostile environment. That's exactly right.
And when the story hit the papers, the case grew even bigger. Due to a statute of limitations, only 15 women would be named in the lawsuit, but in the end, many more emerged. How many women were willing to come forward?
45 were willing to come forward.
45 is an astonishing number.
It's unprecedented in our experience.
And not long after the lawsuit was filed, Dell Labs contacted the EEOC to discuss bringing an end to the case. In August of this year, Chairman Casellas called a news conference to announce that Dell had agreed to settle out of court. It was at this news conference that Dell Labs made its only public statement.
This is a settlement. There's been no finding of wrongdoing by the court at all.
Dell attorney Mark Dichter explained that the settlement is in no way an admission of guilt or that Dell was in violation of any laws. Dell chose to settle, he says, to avoid a costly legal battle and unfounded, unwanted publicity.
Sir, are you telling us that these women are lying? I'm not saying that. I'm telling you that the company has denied all of the allegations.
But in settling, Dell Labs agreed to pay $1.2 million to the 15 women named in the suit, the largest settlement in EEOC history. Dell also agreed to revise its sexual harassment policy and retrain its executives, including Mr. Wassong.
We knew the odds weren't, always so great. However, we were strong.
The woman who led the charge, Janae Adrian, says the settlement speaks for itself.
Wake up. Women are not going to take it. If you really don't think it's a big deal and it happens, and believe me, it will become a big deal.
Is she a bit of a hero to all of you?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
She's pretty cool. And what about the man in the center of the lawsuit, Daniel Wassong? Where is he today? Exactly where he's always been, heading to work, to the same job he's had for the past 26 years. Dan Wassong is still the CEO.
Yeah, he is.
He still has his job.
He should be removed. He should be removed.
You feel strongly about that?
Oh, sure. A person like this shouldn't have that kind of position.
You produce products for women, and you treat women this way?
This August, Dell's board of directors unanimously agreed with its attorneys that there had been no sexual harassment and that Wassong should remain.
Alright, that was being cut off here. So, you saw the report, saw my reaction. I was stunned. When I first uploaded this a year ago, I was actually stunned. Not by the 692 view, but let me tell you something. Throughout the 670 shows, I've never talked about this. I may have talked about it in my very first season, but this is actually one of the first issues ever. In my book, I'm all about education, spreading common sense. But common sense should tell you to step up to the plate and admit your wrongdoings and say, I mean, it's great to sell this so that you can be retrained. So you can be trained and say, okay, let's just sell this so that way it doesn't happen again. Let's move on. In one case, you're about to see it coming out on Saturday. This was at a Denny's. They probably did the same thing like what Dell Labs did. So that's a whole different key. We'll show you that on Saturday. Friday, a very special hour on Friday. It's all about sexual harassment. From a common sense perspective, we're going to teach you what you need to do. We're going to teach what you need to do if you're being sexually harassed. We're going to train what you need or what you can and cannot do to a female employee. It's Sexual Harassment 101 on Give Me a Break Friday. We'll be right back with our rival break and a preview of our Throwback Thursday. So stay with us. Can you imagine you and your friends having a couple beers together and you have a story that you think it's so funny they want to laugh their ass off? In this case right here, which has 1.8 views 8 years ago, These people having a drink, and this person tells a story of when a janitor had to clean the bathroom in the urinal. Clean the urinal because someone took a crap in it. It's a very short video. And when I first watched it, I laughed my socks off. Take a look.
I walk into the bathroom, and there's a janitor there. And he's like, he's sitting there like, it's a goddamn unfighting shit. I walk in, he's like, it's like, you did shit. I'm like, no, what happened? He's like, someone did shit in the urinal. I'm like, man, I didn't do it. I know that. It's like, God damn it, one fucking middle way. Shit.
You want to get your brain together, tell us some story like that? Maybe one of the stories for you. Wow. Okay. Coming up on our Throwback Thursday, one of the stories that I showed you earlier this season about a witch hunt that had happened. That's right. In Wichita, in one city, these foster parents claim that they did not sexually harass these kids. Well, the kids were in foster care. But the kids say, not so fast. John Larson with Innocence Lost. That was a Throwback Thursday. That's it for Give Me a Break for this Wednesday going to Thursday. We'll see you again for Throwback Thursday at a special time. 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. For everyone here at YouTube, stop bullying, speak up, concentration, not strength, my body, my choice. I mean, your body, your choice. No jaywalking. No littering. Have a good night.